Hello and welcome back to the Napping Through Happy Hour podcast where we talk real life, real trauma in real time. I'm Katie.
It's real drama.
It's real drama now.
Oh,
It's real
damn it.
drama now because trauma was too hard for some
Trauma
people.
was too hard. I'm Marie. Yeah, I say trauma naturally. Like, that's what I think of when I think of my life and the real stuff that's happening. But remember, we're doing real drama now.
We're doing real drama. Real
Yeah.
drama, no longer trauma
Yeah.
because we're moving on from it.
We have
Today,
upgraded.
Today, we have a really special guest that I am so happy to bring on board here today. His name is Nick Pollard. He's also known as the People Displeaser. He helps people who are in recovery, but he also helps people who are just people pleasers and has excellent advice on several platforms. Everyone, please welcome Nick Pollard.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for coming on, dude. I saw one of the videos that you had posted today. Are you actually located not in the States anymore?
I wasn't. So I had kind of lost my mind in 2020 and went on this, I guess one might call it a walkabout. And I left the country for a little over 2 years. I was in South America and all kinds of places. And then I had come back with the intention of being in Southern California. And for one reason or another, got a wild hair up my ass and did it again. So I went to Japan and was there I was there for 2 months. And then before that, I was in Costa Rica for 2 months. And then I've just come back to the US and settled down. So yeah, that's what's going on for me.
How was the transition coming back to the States?
It's loud.
Yeah.
If you've never been to Japan, it's they're the most people-pleasing culture I've ever been a part of, which was fascinating. Lots of apologies for every number of things. But it's very, very quiet. I mean, even the streets are quiet. You go to McDonald's, like here, and if you go in LA, it sounds like a circus in there. And then if you go to one in Japan, it's like going to a library. It's fascinating. And then you get off the plane and it's loud. Like it's really loud.
It's amazing.
That's crazy.
What was it like having people pleasers in Japan in a different language?
Very accommodating. I think it was a lot of fun. The Japanese people are very sweet and they're very kind and very generous with their time, which I thought was very cool. So it's a language that, unlike a Spanish, for instance, when I was in South America, I can kind of pick it up and you can kind of do stuff with it, but at the same time, you can't. So there's a barrier, but it's a barrier. Whereas like Japanese is a wall. Like they don't write in like the Roman lettering. So to really speak it, I mean, I can't even sound it out. So it's much different, but everybody's very nice and it's very, very kind. And even if like arigato gozaimasu, which like, thank you very much, they're very happy about you. So it was very cool.
That's probably more work than most Americans put in anyways, just knowing that statement alone.
It very well could be.
It's so true. So Nick, what brought you to TikTok, to Instagram, to basically influencing people? Like where did everything start?
I guess 2 years ago, I had gone through some pretty awful stuff I guess 2.5 years ago, I'd gone through pretty awful stuff in a breakup. And at that point in my life, I had really missed coaching. I'd been a coach for 13 years. I'd kind of stopped and gone and helped a friend of mine do some roofing stuff. It was his VP of sales and it was great. And I had a good time and, it was all good, but I was pretty miserable. I mean, I would wake up every day, just, I had money in my pocket, but at the same time I was unhappy and I didn't love who I was and who I had become. And I just had reached a stopping point with the relationship and I had reached a stopping point with that. And I realized that my love of people and helping other human beings was really where I wanted to be focused. So I had sold everything I owned at that point because I was over it and gone to California to make a new start. And at that point I was, in an Airbnb in Huntington Beach, and kind of living my middle life, I guess would be not my best, but my mid life. And it occurred to me that if I was to maybe start making content, I could potentially get out there and help some people. Right. So I did. And I started doing that kind of full time in May of that year. I kind of ramped up to it, and I did a bunch of series on TikTok, and then moved over to IG, and then Facebook now has grown as well. My Instagram following is incredible. I mean, it's 300,000 people watching me on Instagram and 190,000 on TikTok, and now 20,000 on Facebook. I get recognized and shit. It's weird.
Facebook too. Like even Facebook, they're
that's a hard one to
looking,
breach.
Yeah, that's impressive. Very good.
Yeah.
It was really just a matter of I kind of saw a need in the market. I get really tired of personal growth shit. I'm over how complicated people make it. I think, there's my most recent rant, and I think probably the one that I'll be going down for the next couple of weeks, is this idea that personal growth is supposed to be fucking hard all the time, and it's really not. Like if I hear one more person tell me I'm supposed to be uncomfortable, I'm going to slap somebody in the face. I've been uncomfortable, right? And being uncomfortable that's not the lead measure for growth, right? If you look at, and I'm sure you guys know what lead measure and lag measures are, but like the lead measure is the activity, the lag measure is the result. And the lead measure of personal growth is not discomfort. Right. It's work. Right. And sometimes the work is fun, and sometimes the work isn't. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but sometimes it is fun, and sometimes it's not hard. And sometimes you're in the zone and things are going awesome. And personal growth is just living. I mean, you're just living, right? And if you can learn to accept that living is living, then you should be okay. And you'll be able to grow personally, and you can change your habits and have fun. It's like getting sober. For me, it was about just changing habits. It was about revamping how I looked at the substance and understanding it was poisoning me. And then I just slowed down and I stopped. And that was it. So
what would you consider is sort of the main obstacle for people when they're trying to have this new growth, this new path in life, that gets in the way? Is it themselves? Is it the mentality? Is it like, oh, this is too hard, I just don't want to do it anymore? Like, what is it?
This is a really good question. It's one that I tackle a lot. The thing that most people do wrong when they're trying to, and it's not wrong, it's just kind of the way everybody's taught. The thing that they do that screws them up most of the time is they focus on way too many things at one time. So if you want to change your life in any direction, let's say you want to make more money, right? Well, if you go about the task of, I need to make more money, so I'm going to start a business, and then I'm going to reduce my spending, and then I'm going to do all this stuff, right? And all of it has to change in order to change the one thing. Well, that's fine, but human beings are not particularly great at multitasking. Our brains aren't actually built that way. In fact, if you look at executive function studies, they say very clearly that multitasking is the devil, right? Because what ends up happening is you focus a little on one task, and then focus on a little on another task, and focus a little on another task, and then nothing ever really gets done. So for instance, if like you wanted to be, financially more secure, the first thing you could do would be to change your spending habits rather than change your earning habits. Right. And then once you kind of master those habits and you have those under wraps, then we can start looking at your earning habits, because you have more time and energy to focus on that. And I think where people get screwed up is like, I had a client today talking to me about doing some one-on-one work with him. And he was like, well, I need to change like these 10 things. I'm like, okay, but which one of those is the most important? Right. Because if you change the one and learn how to change one thing, then you can learn how to change all things. Right. The way you change one thing is the way you change all things. So the reason that I think I'm effective in my work and on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and God only knows where else, is because that's
somehow on Periscope as well.
Yeah. I think I'm on Clapper. I don't know what that is. But
I'd be might want to check that out.
Right.
Just in case.
The thing that I think makes my work successful, that makes people successful when they work with me, is that we learn how to change. We don't just change everything. Right. So you take that big thing and you change it. And you say, okay, if I can make room on that, and the rest of this shit I can do too. Right.
I can do hard shit.
Right.
Like I've been telling you, I can do hard shit. Yeah.
Right. And interestingly, you can just do shit.
Yeah.
And I think that's, people say, I don't know where to start. I'm like, well, pick something. like anything, do anything,
Mm.
right? Start somewhere. And I think my work resonates with people because I think people are lonely, and I think they're tired of being lonely, and I think people are disconnected. I think addiction's at an all-time high because, if we look at the research is indicating that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. And when you consider that against the data and say, okay, well, let's extrapolate that and look at who's doing this well. If you look like the Portuguese is a great example, where addiction's at its lowest rate in Portugal in the last 20 years. Well, okay, why? Well, they stopped arresting addicts.
Nice.
Completely. And they took all of that money and they put it toward treatment.
Oh, love that.
So and then in addition to that, they're giving out microloans. So like if you complete the treatment program, they'll give you a microloan to start a business or to buy a car to drive for Uber.
That is amazing.
That's so beautiful.
So when we're talking about addiction, we're not talking about an addiction crisis anymore. We're talking about a connection crisis. Right. And that's what I think people are missing. And when you start to look at what people pleasing is, that is truly a lack of connection. It's a lack of connection to self. It's a lack of connection to community, because you can't connect when you have a mask on. So that's what I think people are learning from me.
Just dropping all these bombs.
I like
already.
it. So many thoughts right through it. Well, I'm also like, it's funny because I think I've been this point in my life, and then Katie and I talk about it often, is like I have a hard time connecting to people. And so then I'm wondering, how does what's that opposite manifest in my life? What does that look like? And I'm probably thinking of a few things, but I also know I'm learning I can only do one thing at a time. And so I don't know if I'm the best at picking the order.
Well, I guess to that degree, what is your advice, especially for those with ADHD? Because that also seems to be on the rise, or at least in the vernacular now, and a little bit more prevalent in like discussing how we think and how distracted we can be with just so much going on. But how does someone with ADHD kind of go through this process?
This is going to be a hard thing to hear for people that have ADHD. But again, the name of my channel is not the People Pleaser; it's the People Displeaser. So I guess buckle up. But the narrative around ADD and neurodivergence is interesting. Okay, so the neurodivergent movement is relatively new against medical data, and they've kind of lumped everything into one, right? If you think differently, you're neurodivergent. Okay, great. So is everyone neurodivergent then? Because the very definition of divergence is that we don't think the same. So if you look at ADD, okay, great. So we have ADD, we have ADHD, then we have normal thinking, then we have obsessive compulsive disorder thinking, then we have, NPD, we have all the Ds, right? We have all the disorders, we have every kind of disorder imaginable, right? People pleasing, and we have alcoholic use disorder, and we have substance abuse disorder. It's just a disorder for everything. Here's the thing, you're not special. It's oftentimes very hard to hear for people, is that they're not special. And I've actually had a client recently that we decided not to work together because I refused to acknowledge that they were special. Because here's the thing, I have ADD, I also have ADHD, I'm also dyslexic, I'm also a recovered alcoholic, I'm also a former people pleaser. I'm also an abuse survivor of multiple awful things. Right, I've been through a lot of things, but I still have to get up and go to work.
Right.
Yeah.
And I still have to do what I have to do. And sure, does that mean that I'm slightly stronger than some people? Yes, it does also mean that I'm slightly weaker than some other people. Because I know many people that got over their shit, that it was worse than mine, faster than me. Does that mean that I'm bad? No, not even a little bit. It just means I'm me, right? And when you take away from life the I need to be special thing, and you realize that we're all just travelers, we're kind of on the same road, then things get a lot easier, because whether you're the worst or whether you're the best, you're still engaging in narcissism because you still think you're special.
So I guess maybe I'm just like questioning this because I also have ADHD. Are you saying that do you think there's a prevalence of people with ADHD who think they're special? Like what you know what I mean? Like is that because I am not on that train at all. Because I feel like if anything, I have to like chill on like explaining myself. That's what
Right.
I
Right.
uh, but
I don't think that people with ADHD think they're
okay,
special. I think
right.
that ADHD has a tendency to become an excuse for why you
Fair
can't do
enough.
things.
Fair enough.
And
I
I
think
don't
that's
and I
probably
just so another very interesting statistic, another very interesting subset of data where addiction is concerned, we find that people with ADD and ADHD have higher levels of addiction rates.
Mm.
yes. Do know
Right.
that.
Why? Because we're dopamine chasers. We like to
Yeah.
fight for the dopamine. We're going after it. We want it, right? Okay, well, is that if I call it a trauma response, does that make it acceptable?
Okay. I know
Ooh.
this is okay, so I'm trying to equate this to the way queer culture is, and
Mm,
there's this. It's kind of like we overspec. I get it. Okay, I'm kind of coming to. We have our own version of this.
sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
I'm a big believer in that you can heal just about anything.
Yeah.
Right. And do you have things that make you different or that make you um, function differently or think differently? Sure. But I think everybody does.
Right.
And if you look at, I've never met a person that didn't have some sort of trauma in their life, never once. Um, and trauma is subjective. There's, and it doesn't subscribe itself very well to big or small. Some people believe their traumas are larger than others. I believe mine was, what it was, and it's taken me a long time to get there. And part of the reason that I suffered so long was I believed my trauma was bigger than it was.
Mm.
Right? Because the bigger you think it is, the more power you're going to give it.
How did you minimize that in your own head?
I didn't.
Okay.
I let it be what it was.
Ooh.
So when I realized that the trauma was something that had happened to me, not because of me, when I realized that trauma was part of living, that life has inherently a large amount of suffering, and that I was destined to both do more of that suffering, right? And everyone else is also destined to have suffering. Then I realized that whether my suffering is good, whether it's bad, whether it's big, whether it's small, it's part of the human experience, and that allowed me to heal and grow.
Did you have a mentor or someone? Like, how did you come to this place of? I mean, it's almost Buddhist in a way. Like, it's a bit
You
Buddhist
guys
in
are
that
making it
way.
messy a bit.
Which is hilarious because we actually just have a viewer here saying that it sounds very Buddhist, which is hilarious because I was just about to say that.
I have been very fortunate to be able to consume a ridiculous amount of personal growth material in my lifetime. I'd say somewhere north of 10,000 hours of materials I've put through my brain at some point, that I think is only now coming to fruition. I used to read a lot when I was younger, and I still do, but I was also I've had to think a lot. I've spent a lot of time alone. I've been in a lot of pain, and through pain, you have two choices. You either stop or you seek. And I chose to seek. And nobody's asked me a question quite like that. I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional.
It's okay.
I was forced to do and be who I am now, by circumstance. And I was very lucky that I was able to walk away from it. And to be on the other side and to be able to help people and to love people and to give myself away the way that I get to for a living is powerful. And I think where I come from is, I come from a lot of bad stuff. And that's why I know what I know, is because of seeking and trying to find answers. And now I feel like I feel like I'm ethically and morally responsible to give away what I have.
Wow. Ooh, that hit me.
You guys gonna be okay?
Nah, we're gonna have to go for about 2 more hours.
Okay.
I have thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. No, I also am thinking about um when I felt like I grew the most is when I was kind of forced to be alone in some, in my own. I almost called it my desert, era. Moved to the desert, like for what felt like desert, the Central
Right.
Valley in California, which
It is
is
literally a desert.
Yeah,
it's,
it's the desert.
I I think it's really amazing that like I definitely didn't have this kind of trajectory change in my life where I'm getting to influence thousands, but I know, or millions probably, with all of your between all of your channels. Um, do you think that there is an as this and as about somebody who doesn't who's about not people pleasing, is there a way to force yourself into this kind of desert that yourself so you could change your life? Do you know, I don't know if that
Just
makes any
force
sense what
yourself
I'm
into
asking.
change.
No, but I'm
Right.
saying is like, can we put ourselves in a place where we have to be raw and real and honest with ourselves? um I don't, because it's like with, if we're changing one thing at a time, how sometimes we have to get through that, oh, that desert
Right.
to
Right.
to get to that first change.
Sure. um, no, there is no way to force yourself into pain. I mean, you can. So I think you can force yourself into discomfort. And I think that's the narrative that's being misconstrued now in
Mm,
the, I call it the PG personal growth world, is that, you should be constantly forcing yourself into discomfort. I think, um,
maybe that's what I'm thinking of, because I
I
feel like
think
that's
that
exactly
people know deeply when they are being complacent.
hmm,
And I think what's being taught is like you shouldn't be. I think they're trying to say that you shouldn't be complacent, but I also realize that like at sometimes you have to be kind of complacent. Sometimes you should just enjoy that you're like in the meadow and things are fine and you see the mountain ahead of you. You're like, okay, that's gonna suck, but like maybe this is just for me to enjoy. Maybe this was the work I did so I could have them, because happiness as a gauge for success is really flawed. Like it's not going to work because happiness is fleeting and you're only happy when you're solving problems. Most people are like, if I could only solve this problem, I'd be happy. Well, that's true. But then you're going to have a different one. You're going to have to solve that problem because that's what brings happiness. The happiest you will ever be is when you're making progress, right? And in the meadows, there is progress. It's faster progress, right? In fact, and on the plateaus, there's progress because it's faster progress, right? And then you get to the mountains and it's slower, but it's uphill, and you get to see some cool shit. And it's harder, but it's more of a workout. But at the same time, the meadow has its own values. Um, if you're asking how do you like force yourself into growth, um,
I
there is
mean,
a way,
I need to know, like,
right?
this is personal question.
Okay, so if you really want to force yourself to grow, um, if I looked you right in the eyes and said, "What do you need to change right now?" What is it?
I've got a list. I mean,
What's
that's
the
the
first thing?
thing.
What's the first thing? What's the one thing?
um I need to like be healthier, lose weight. Yeah,
Okay, so you need to be healthier.
yeah.
All right. So what does that mean in terms of your habits?
Well, here's the thing. I feel like I've done the first thing is I've completely stopped smoking, which I never thought I would do in my whole. Not okay.
Nice.
Well,
Well done.
I smoked for a very long time, but
Okay.
one day I remember just being like, "This sucks," and you can't breathe.
How long ago
Like
was it?
it was maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
4 or 5 months ago.
It
Cool.
hasn't been that long,
Okay,
but
cool.
yeah, it's
Okay, you ready?
yeah.
Okay, you've done that. Now what?
Now I don't, that's what I don't know. Like that's why I feel like I'm one of those people like that feels like something has to move me. Like
Oh,
I
you're
think
looking for motivation.
yeah. Well, is
Right.
it motivation like or just like I have to be
Right.
on the cliff to like
Um,
change anything.
right.
And that's
You're
not
you're looking
really
for the grizzly bear to chase you.
yeah.
Mm.
Right? You're looking
Yeah.
for, so there's two ways you change, right? You have either a goal that's motivating enough that you'll chase it, right? Full blown chase it, right? Or you have something so fucking scary behind you that you're running away.
Mm.
Ideally, you have both, right?
Yeah.
So what's the scary thing behind you? That if you don't change this, what happens?
I mean, I watched my dad die from cancer, and like I
Good.
just think about that.
I mean, not
Like
good.
that's
Thank
thank you.
You heard it here first, everyone. Nick Pollard says, "Good, your dad died." Only joking.
Definitely
Only
not into
joking.
people pleasing.
Right. No, definitely not. So behind you lay cancer, right? Behind you is cancer. That's a big scary bear behind you,
Yeah.
right? What's in front of you? What's the carrot on the stick, so to speak?
You know, to me it's the finally fucking doing this shit. I don't
Good.
know if that makes any
Okay, so
sense,
there's a
but like,
feeling. You're chasing a feeling. That's cool,
yeah.
right? But here's the thing: you don't get to have the feeling unless you celebrate your wins. And if you don't celebrate your wins by creating habits that are around those wins, then you don't get to have shit. So here's the deal: if you decide you're going to change one habit, again, we change one habit at a time because the way you change one thing is how you change all things, right? What's the one habit you need to change in the next 2 months? And you could change it every day. What's the thing you know you would change and you could change? Tell me that right now. Don't think, just react.
I would stop ordering Postmates. Dear God, man.
You'd stop ordering Postmates.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Okay.
Oh, Nick.
Instead of ordering Postmates, what you're going to do is every time you pick up your phone to order Postmates, I want you to say out loud, I'm about to order Postmates and eat food that's terrible for me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I want you to say it out loud. Do it every day.
Okay.
Okay. But before you do that, I want you to track every time you order Postmates for 1 week. 1 week, track time of day, what you ordered, how much it cost you. Do it every day for 1 week. I bet you by the end of the week, the number goes down.
It probably would if I had to look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think you could do that?
Oh yeah, I could.
Yeah,
I've done the food tracking thing before.
No, I don't want you to track your food. That's fucking
But
nonsense. I love you.
but I feel like but I feel like that never works for me. But
Right.
not like the negative times.
Well, no,
Like,
because you're tracking for reduction, not for data.
yeah.
Most people track for reduction, not data. Okay. I want you to track for data. That's all you're doing. I just want the data. So be honest. Don't judge yourself. Okay. Just track it. You don't have to reduce this week. In fact, go crazy. Order more. I don't give a shit.
I mean, I'm sitting here next to a bag of bowels, and that
Right.
that was amazing.
It was good. It was delicious, right?
But I'll
Because
write it down. But
right.
what the hell? It
Write
doesn't
it down.
matter.
Right. It does matter when you write it down. I'll tell you why. Okay. Because what you're doing is you're then intentionally seeing what you're doing. Okay. When you have a habit, okay, habits don't function in your brain. Okay. They function in your subconscious, way behind the brain. Okay. And that habit is creating havoc in terms of your physical body. It's creating weight problems. It's creating whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. If you eat too much, if you smoke too much, if you drink too much, it's a habit. Okay. When you expose the habit, you then become able to see it. Okay. Because you shine a light on it. You go, okay, see you. And that alone will help you move the chains. Right? Because you're going, okay, well, that's probably not good. I shouldn't order Postmates 65 times a week. That's fucking nonsense, right? That shouldn't be what I'm doing. Then you go, okay, oh, what's a number I'm comfortable with? 45. By the way, every time you do this, you're going to do it wrong. So, and you're going to do it wrong like 5 times, okay? Because you're going to try and overcorrect. That's what everybody does. Everybody does this. So you're going to try and overcorrect, right? And once you hit that overcorrection point, you'll go, okay, so I'm going to go down to 45, and you're not going to get there. Okay. You're going to get down to 50, and then you're going to get frustrated because you didn't hit 45. And then you're going to say to yourself, what? Well, fuck it. I may as well just order 60. Right. So set your targets effectively and reduce by 1 a day.
Okay.
Okay. Do it by 1 a day. If you did that over 2 months, how many times would you be ordering Postmates a week? 0.
I was like,
Shit, math.
The answer is 0.
Yeah.
Right.
That'd be step 1 for sure.
Right. But see, you're saying, I want to feel healthier, right? What you're saying is the thing I want to change is my health.
Yeah,
okay?
definitely.
That's not a change you can make. You can change the habits within inside of that frame.
Okay.
Right. So if you think about people pleasing, this is one of my favorite things about this idea is that people say to me, well, I want to not be a people pleaser. Okay. So what? Well, I want to stop people pleasing. Okay. What the fuck does that mean? People pleasing is a category of behavior.
Right.
Right? It's not a behavior in itself. Inside of people pleasing lies dishonesty. It lies saying yes when you mean to say no. It's overcommitting. It's overspending. It's buying too much bullshit for your friends and family. It's like there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of line items within that habit. Okay. So if you look at that, one of the main ones, of course, is that they don't have boundaries. That's why I talk about boundaries so goddamn much. Right. But when you look at people pleasing or lack of boundaries, you say, okay, I want to have boundaries. Okay, which one? Pick one.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the exercises I give to my groups and I give to my one-on-one clients is to learn to say no. And we do that by saying no every day to everything for 1 week.
Oh, I would die. I would die. I would die.
I don't think you
That
will.
would.
Right?
I don't know. That would be. I can see that being really difficult, though. for
It's
people.
challenging. Of course
Yeah.
it's challenging. Right. But again, this is one of those exercises that's hard, but fun. Okay. So what people I want to see people realize is that personal growth is neither hard or fun. It's both.
Okay, I see that.
Okay. So think about a time in your life, and this is one of those really kind of important distinctions that it really means a lot to me, is like you can be both happy and sad at the same goddamn time.
Mhm.
Okay. When I look at when I first sobered up in 2018, I was fucking miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I hated myself. I hated everything around me. Right. But food tasted better. Well, that was weird. And then like I'd go to the gym and I felt great. So I was happy, right? But I was also sad. I missed my old life, but I liked my new life.
Mhm.
Well, that's weird. How can I have both? Well, it's the same way as like when you break up with somebody, you're pissed at them, but you miss the shit out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The same way when you set a boundary, like one of my boundaries is really specific to me is like, I don't tolerate yelling. By the way, boundaries are internal. They're not external. So I don't tolerate people that yell at me. And when I learned that boundary, it was like, okay, I'm going to set my boundary with other people. No, no, I need to set the boundary with me, which is when somebody yells at me, it makes me feel uncomfortable, or I feel uncomfortable when people raise their voice. I will then address that. If that continues, I leave the conversation. That's my boundary, right? Well, that's a skill set. I had to learn that over time.
How do you establish that boundary? But at least now, not when you first started.
Okay, so if you're new and you're setting a boundary like that, you do it based on your values, not on your emotions.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell me
You
more.
need me to elaborate.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So when people are setting boundaries, usually what happens, okay, is you get to a place where you're fundamentally fucking fed up with somebody. Let's call it your mom, okay? And because everybody's mom is
Touchstone
shit
for
on her
Marie.
mom. So let's say it's your mom that's driving you crazy, right? And you've been putting up with this shit for shit, I don't know. Let's say 20 years, right? 20 years you've been
There
dealing
you
with
go.
this boundary violation. Okay. And finally they come to you and they say something. Let's say they're the kind of person that meddles in your affairs, right? And they say, well, I'm not sure I would have done it that way. I would do it this way. And then the next thing that happens in your brain is you snap, right? And you turn to him and go, God damn it. If you keep talking to me like that, I'm not going to talk to you ever again. And then we have the cutoff conversation, right? Which is hardly ever going to happen. By the way, most people don't actually accomplish that, nor should they in many regard. But let's say you have that conversation because you have bottled up all this bullshit for so long that you finally fucking snap.
Mm.
That's what most people think a boundary conversation is. And
That's
then I
not it.
wonder, right? And then people wonder. They're like, "Well, every time I set boundaries with my friends and family, they don't want to talk to me anymore. Why
Not
would
it.
they?
Yeah.
Right? Why on earth would they do that? Jesus, that sounds terrifying, right? Where when you realize that your boundaries are going to be set on value systems, not on your emotions, right? So my value system. So if I look at a value of mine, like honesty is a big value of mine. Okay, so I do not tolerate lying at all. from anyone, including me. Okay? So, if you have a boundary that you are willing to set internally, you have to live by it because it is a part of your code. So, if one of your boundaries is, I do not tolerate lying, then you don't get to be a liar. Right? So, when you set a boundary on your value systems, number one, you have to be able to honor it for yourself before you can ask anyone else to honor it. Which means that if somebody steps on that boundary, what do you have to do? You have to tell them. Because to do otherwise would be dishonest. So, somebody steps on that boundary and they tell you a lie. You say, hey, listen, I don't deal with people that lie. When you lie to me, it makes me very unhappy with you, and I will not hang out with you if you keep doing that. I give people usually 3 strikes and you're out. At which point, I turn the volume down on the relationship. Not off. Oftentimes, it's never off because, listen, people change, right? If I give somebody a boundary, if I teach somebody my boundaries or I express my boundaries, you communicate it to others, and they choose to continually violate it, then you have to turn the volume down. And you have to give grace where grace is due. Okay? If they choose to overstep after that, then potentially you have to have the cutoff, no contact conversation. But there's also one of the other, you mentioned kind of a prolific thing with ADD and ADHD in the world that's coming out right now. The other one from last year was fucking narcissistic personality disorder. By the way, mental note, only 5% of the world population has that particular disorder. Okay, that's right around 30 million people worldwide. It's a lot, but it's not that much when you consider it against 7 billion. Okay, so when we think about that.
So wait, all my exes weren't narcissists?
Maybe tendencies. I mean, I'm thinking of a couple episodes myself.
We also have to consider that there's narcissism and then there's narcissistic personality disorder.
Right.
Okay.
So there's narcissistic behaviors and manipulative people, but NPD is a totally different game. Right? So just to call somebody a narcissist has kind of lost its luster.
Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, have you ever met a 2-year-old? Total narcissist.
Fair.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I refuse to have them. Yeah.
And if you look at human behavior, we are built a little narcissistic because it kind of keeps us alive. So everybody has some narcissism. It's just when it gets out of control, when it gets out of check, that it becomes a problem. It turns into manipulation and lying. Another thing we see, of course, in that narrative is alcoholics have a tendency to turn into narcissists. So do addicts. Right. And then they sober up and they're not anymore.
See, I date addicts. This is what you're they made. I have a history. I have a history of dating addicts.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? It's all coming together, Nick. Thanks.
Well, I do what I can for you. Nope, this was helpful.
I love it. This is basically just a one-on-one session with you guys.
I'm sorry. I know. I should not be monopolizing.
Forgive me. I did not mean to make you apologize on that. It was just
you
really
stop
cool.
making her people please. I won't.
Well, here's the problem, Nick, is that I'm also a people pleaser, but also recovering from all of that as well. Because, as Marie has pointed out to me, like I will go above and beyond for anyone for no reason whatsoever.
Too much. Too much, Nick. It's too much.
It's too much.
Does it border on addiction?
It probably does. If I'm going to be honest with it, it likely is something that is just like it was one of those things that like people didn't show up for me, so I wanted to just show and display like how you show up for people and like an over exuberant way. I'm a golden retriever is what I describe myself as.
That's a great description.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, this one gets me get away with a lot of stuff. Or I'm pointing the wrong way.
No.
It's flipped because of the image.
Sometimes too, and I'm like, because I'm trying. We talk about the ways I can be a bad friend because I am a little bit because of my issues because there's a laundry list of them. So I'm on, and so I am, and Katie's always like, it's fine, and
because it is, unless it's something that I bring up, it usually is fine, and you do tend to beat yourself up quite a bit on very minor things.
Well, here's the problem: is nobody knows the truth. Like, is Katie being nice? Am I just, treating myself like I'm special, because of my ADHD. I don't know.
Are you special? I'm kidding.
Well, here's the thing. My mom says I am. Other than that, I actually tend to think that I'm nobody is special. And in that, um, you know, I think kind of like you said, everybody's going through their shit, really. Um, I hope I'm special in a way that I can affect people.
Right.
And that's, but I think with like me and my ADHD, I'm always thinking that there's a solve. Once I had that like kind of understanding of maybe you're a little different the way you do things,
Right.
to me, I've been like, well, then let's figure out the solve.
Right.
I don't know.
I think it's perfectly acceptable to say that you're different in the way you do things, and I think um, I just don't think that that provides any inherent value. In or That's probably a weird way to say that. I think that it doesn't make you more or less valuable,
Right.
and um, there are some things that can be profoundly wrong, right? Like there are people that can't function, frankly, and I'm not one of those people, and that's very cool. Um, and I am one of the, a very high functioning human for my station in the world, and I'm very excited about that. But I had to come to terms with who I am. I don't get to be everything I want to be. I can
Mhm.
be anything I want to be, but I don't get to be everything I want to be.
What's one thing that you think you can't be
Oh, I
that you
can
would
be
love
just
to
about anything. There are things I don't possess the. I don't think that I possess the want to be. Like I would never want to be the president of the United States. That looks
be?
like a shit job. I
Hated
No
it.
don't.
thanks.
I don't want to be.
Hated
I
it.
used to think years ago. I thought I wanted to be the CEO of a major corporation. I don't want that. I don't want to work that fucking hard. Um, and
I
frankly, it sounds boring. Okay, like mergers and acquisitions all day. It's um, it's like so so many people are like, I want to make $1 billion, and I see that. Like that's the other like weird narrative I see on social media is like people are like, I'm going to be a multimillionaire by the time I'm this age. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're just not. And it's not that you can't. It's that the odds are against you.
Right.
And if you're not willing to do the hard shit to get to the place that you have to get to do that, then you are not going to get there. That's just how it works. And that's why that like you see a guy like Elon Musk in our lifetime, there will not be another one of him.
Mm.
Okay. There have been two of him in my lifetime. One of them ran for president. His name was Ross Perot. Okay. So Ross ran for president years and years and years and years ago. This was the 80s, right? And then up until then, we didn't even hear about a billionaire until Musk showed up. Right? Didn't even hear about him. Ross was one of the first ones ever. Okay. So one of the things people are doing that's really sad is that they're gauging success against metrics that aren't going to work.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
what if I just make enough that I can go and travel to the places I want to go, and I can live in my happy apartment in Southern California, and I can surf like 4 days a week, and I can eat steaks when I want to, and I can live my life. What if that's enough? What if I don't have to grow any further than that? What if I don't have to do any more than that because I'm happy, right? And I think Gary Vee says this a lot, which is like 7 billion people worldwide need to redefine what happiness looks like.
Mm.
And I agree with that because I wake up. So if you want to, I love the morning routine posts on TikTok and Instagram right now. It's like I wake up in the morning and then I jump into an ice cold bath filled with hot mayonnaise. What? And then,
Good for you.
right. And after that, I eat 4 kale chips and then I punch myself in the face because I have to be uncomfortable before I go to work. And then I don't drive. I walk in the snow uphill, making sure, again, I have to be totally uncomfortable. Then when I get to the office, I meditate for 14 minutes, not 15, not 13 and a half, 14 minutes. Then like,
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm going to tell you what my morning routine looks like. You ready? You're going to love this. Okay. I wake up when my eyes open.
Love it.
Okay. I then go into my kitchen. I make myself not 1, but 3 cups of coffee. Back to back to back. Okay. I usually, although I've been trying not to, I open my apps and I look, and see how my following is doing. And I try and respond to as many as I can, right? But that usually sends me down the ADD rabbit hole because I do have ADD, but I am not special, and I know that. So I go right down the rabbit hole where I'm like, this is pretty crazy. And then I'm looking at bulldogs for like 3.5, 40 minutes. And then that can last maybe 20,
Yes,
30 minutes,
bulldog talk.
depending on the day. So that's like the first hour of my day. Okay. Then I read because I love to read. It's my favorite thing. So I've managed to incorporate reading into my business, which is cool. So I read. And then once I'm done reading, I write content. Then I record content. And then I take my meetings for the rest of the day. That's my morning routine is I wake up. I think my shower's in there. I do shower as well. So I wake up. I usually will have my coffee, shower, have 2 more cups of coffee, and then, kind of get to work. But I don't take an ice bath because I'm not trying to be uncomfortable. I don't run for 27 miles at 4 a.m. And guys, realistically, I'm highly successful. Okay. Like I have a very good life. But I'm not doing all this other shit.
Right. Because you're not making your kale chips in the morning or your protein shakes.
Right. And
Meal prepping for a month.
Yeah.
Right. I don't need nine hours of yoga. Like, give me a break. Okay. Everybody needs to just calm down. And the problem with these narratives so often is that it's showing people, or it's trying to impress upon people that there's like a shortcut. Okay. There's a good to fair chance in my lifetime I will make a ridiculous amount of money in a year. Okay. Because it's who I am and I've done it before. And so I know how to get there, and I will recreate that win. And I do okay. I'm fine. Like, I'm very happy with who I am. But I don't have to be happy. Because I cut all of the bullshit out of my life. I lived out of 2 backpacks for 2 years. Okay. I was in South America. I was in Asia. I've been all over the United States. I lived in an RV. I did all of that to prove to myself I needed nothing more than what I needed. Like, that was the lesson I took from 2 years of traveling, is I don't need a lot. Take my apartment away. I'll move into a studio. Take away my television. I'll watch on my iPad. Take away my iPad. I'll go to the library. I will figure it out. Right. When you realize that you don't have to have all of the shit to be happy, that you can live your life in a way that makes you happy just because it makes you happy. Holy crap, the amount of freedom.
I think for a lot of people, contentment is hard though. Like, it's hard to get there. I can't imagine.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I agree. Yeah. I think I have to limit my time on social media because, after an hour, I feel inept because of these, like, get ready with me. I was like, I barely woke up this morning.
And I'm doom scrolling already.
Yeah. Get ready with me. I'd rather not. That looks exhausting.
Yeah.
I do love the fads. I crack up all the time at them. Like,
what's your favorite recent one?
I wonder what it'll be next. Like, the ice bath is the new one right now. Okay. Before that, it was something. What was the one before that? There was a really. I'm looking at you following. What was the weird trend before ice baths?
Mushroom tea.
Was it BBLs? Because I've I'm on a mailing list for a couple of those.
I mean, it could be.
It could be that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you get up and you read. You have to shout affirmations at yourself all morning long, and then, the minute you feel happy, you can't be happy. That's what I was gonna
carve them into the wall. Yeah.
Contentment is a weird subject, because it's not the goal.
Okay.
The harder you chase happiness, the less likely you are to find it. Because happiness is not something you find, it's something you experience, right? And too many people are chasing, right? And they're trying to be content. Well, trying to be content means by default that if you're trying for something, then you are not content. So you are now trying to not. You're like saying I want to be content, which means that you are not content, which means you will not be content. Right? So if you take away the chase and realize that happiness will come and go, then you get it more often.
What was the
Because
marker for you? Like, well, how did you realize that?
I had everything.
Mm.
I did. I had everything. I had a nice car and a nice apartment and, good income and a decent relationship. And I was miserable because I had everything that was supposed to make me happy.
Mhm.
And I wasn't. I was miserable. I was really unhappy. And I would wake up every day and I would drink. And, if I wasn't drinking, I was suicidal. And this was after I went to rehab. Shit. Like, this is next level territory shit. I was doing good, right? I'd gotten my life on track. I was still a fucking mess. And I remember just sitting on my couch, just sobbing one day. And I was like, I'm sad. Like, I just don't love my life. And I asked myself out loud. I do that a lot. Like, I have a lot of conversations with myself. I look like I'm insane. And I
Yay.
asked
No,
myself,
that's great.
what needs to change, man? Like, Nick, what's up, bro? And I remember my voice just coming back to me like, you got to stop now. Like, you just got to stop. You need to go do what you love. And if you're broke and you're happy, then be broke and happy. And when I stopped chasing money and when I stopped chasing happiness is when I started to get happy, because I was just doing me, being authentic to me. I was being joyful because I'm me. I was being happy because I'm me. And me is enough. You are enough.
Yeah. What's something that you're looking forward to this week? Like, what's something on the docket that you have that you're
Ooh,
excited
I got
about?
some cool stuff coming this week. So I did a funny thing yesterday. I put up a story on my Instagram about having coffee with me. Because I was curious, like, how many people in Huntington Beach are watching my shit, just out of curiosity. So I put it up on Instagram. I put it up on TikTok. Would you want to have coffee with me on Thursday? And 400 people said yes. So I'm a little concerned that I'm going to overrun a coffee shop.
Oh, do like one of those mom and pop shops where it
Oh,
like
I,
they just
I
It
get
thought
needs a
about it.
business.
yeah,
I literally think that if I did that to my favorite coffee shop, the owner would be
would kill you.
shout out to Sweet Love in Huntington Beach. So I don't think I'll do it there, but it's I don't know where I'll do it. So I actually am going to change it. I'm going to do it Saturday because a lot of people did respond and they were like, "Hey, could you do it on a weekend?" So
Oh,
I don't know how many people will show up, but that's kind of cool, right? Like, I'm going to put up a calendar event in my stand store, which is on my website. If you click the link in my bio, it's in there. It'll be up there later today. But yeah, so that's one cool thing I get to do this week. And then I've been moving into my apartment all week, which is cool. Like, I just came back from Asia, so I got furniture, and I've been a regular furniture mechanic, just IKEAing it up.
I was wondering. I was hoping that maybe we could send you some kind of art decoration for your walls because they're looking like a college
Yeah, it does
freshman
look a
right
little.
now.
It's so funny. I was on a podcast when I was in where was I? I was in Costa Rica. I was going live and I was on a podcast, and in this room, like in this Airbnb in Hako, they were in storage containers, and behind me was like this bunk bed, and it looked like a prison bunk bed, and people are like, "Bro, are you broadcasting from jail?" Right now, it looks like I'm broadcasting from a mental asylum, which is great.
No.
But
Just a
I
halfway.
wouldn't have a window in an insane.
Yeah, definitely not.
So,
At least not one without bars.
right. So yeah, that's what's going on for me. And then I just launched my course 3 weeks ago. That was kind of a fun disaster launching. It didn't sell the way I had hoped, but I'm actually really glad it didn't. Not because it's been a bad course, but because the size was small enough, it caused me to be able to do a very experiential coaching work through that course. So rather than being more of a kind of a taught teacher-based, lecture-based course, I've been really able to take the lessons from my Bulletproof Boundaries course and guide and coach people actively through it. So we've been able to use that rather as a learning platform for growing rather than just learning. And that was really very cool. So it actually caused me, so the misstep in the selling actually caused me to be able to rework the content for that and make it more I guess more experiential is the best way to say it. So I'm actually really grateful that it didn't that it didn't do what I hoped it would do. Um, because
Just this
now
tradition.
this group is right. This group is just getting an awesome thing, and I'm feeling awesome, and they're happy, and I'm happy, and everybody's pretty stoked, and that's been cool. So I'm
That's
very
freaking
lucky.
awesome. And what's the website that people can find you on? And also you can always follow him at People Displeaser. Is it also Instagram People Displeaser?
Instagram is the People Displeaser, and on TikTok I'm People Displeaser. My website, just go to one of my things, and click on it. You can find me at nickpollard.com. It doesn't point at anything substantial right now, so whatever. But it will in the next couple of days. Um, and then obviously the link in my bio is the best way to get there, which is my Stan store. If you don't know about Stan, they're a very cool organization, kind of like a link tree, but it works. Um,
Sick link tree burn, bro.
but, I think Stan's probably paying me for advertising now. I'm just kidding.
Okay, fair enough.
I wish they would, but no.
We'll get
All
that
of the
on.
money that I make, I don't make any money on my channels. I don't promote. I don't promote products. I don't do any of that. Everything that I make is on my coaching, um, and that's how I intend to keep it. Because I will not bastardize my message in the hope that I feel like I get to give people by pitching product. Um,
Right.
and if I ever do a podcast, I hope that it supports itself in the same way yours does. In that I don't have advertisers, um, I don't have sponsors. I get to be me, and I will never ever let anybody tell me how to do this different.
Love it. I love it. Well, hopefully we won't bastardize it for you, but just get you some more people that might be looking for some help in people
I,
pleasing.
I would
Well,
love
I
to.
know. Yeah, I'm about this close to signing up
She's
for
like,
myself.
we can do it. And always welcome back to talk more about this stuff. I absolutely love it. Marie, is there anything that you have coming up this week that you're excited about?
I have nothing that I'm excited about this week. Oh, I am going to Sacramento next week for work, but
Fun.
um,
Hey, it's a great town.
it's
Really good food out there.
is
It's
there really good food in Sacramento?
Great food scene. Yeah, my
good.
sister used to work in the West Sacramento area at
I
a bunch of great places. I'll send you
I
some.
live in San Francisco though, so I just
I know.
wanted to qualify. And you're still
Sure.
gonna tell. So
Well, the Sacramento area kind of started the slow food movement, and they have a bunch of like really great artisanal type food and like locally grown, locally sourced type of food.
okay.
Uh, so natural wines, natural foods, natural grains, all that.
Well, the good news is that you'll be in an environment where you don't have to order Postmates. It'll be right around you, won't
Dude, bringing it back. Call back.
it?
I love it. I love
Well,
it.
all right. Well, there you go. I love
That's
that.
fantastic.
And he's not invited back.
Oh, absolutely no, that's
Yep.
not the case. Not the case. As for myself, I'm shooting a project that is not a part of the WGA strike, which is nice. So I'm excited to do that next week. I feel like lately there's been a lot of people that have been reaching out to me like, hey, this role seems like you would be really good for it. And I don't know, something about that is just very new and weird and kind of fun.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I'm looking forward to shooting some more. You know, until I get more work, that's the greatest thing. Just getting people to ask me to come do projects and stuff. Hopefully, we'll hear a little bit more in the coming future about some comedy shows and stuff that I'll have on the docket. But apart from that, I just want to let everybody know out there that the universe is utter chaos. So please be kind to one another. Marie, is there anything that you'd like to leave the people with?
Yeah. When you are putting the mustard away in your refrigerator, you should
Mm-hmm.
leave it upside down so that way next time you use it, that weird juice doesn't come out first on your sandwich. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I
the little
do.
mustard slime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's really gross. So just leave it upside down so
Okay,
that way
fair
that
enough.
doesn't
What
happen.
if it's in like a can and not a squeeze bottle? Still same thing?
Wait, I want to know who's mustard from a can.
Like those like fancy Dijons and
Oh,
stuff?
like a glass jar,
Like a
maybe.
jar, yeah.
Then, well, you don't have that same problem. I'm talking about squeeze bottles
Gotcha.
in particular.
Okay. The
So
yellow
say
mustard.
this. There you go. That's
Okay.
this week's advice.
I love it. We'll slap it on a t-shirt. Nick, is there anything you want to leave everybody with?
Um, I think the thesis is change one thing at a time.
I love that.
And
Love it.
remember, by doing that, you change one thing fast, you change many things slow. And if you change many things at once, you change really, really slow. So focus on the one thing, change it quickly. Focus on the next thing and change it quickly. Focus on the next thing and you change it quickly. And when you're done, you've changed everything.
That's so profound.
Much better than my mustard.
I eat both equally amazing and both special.
Okay. Also, sriracha sauce. If you store it standing straight up and open the bottle, it'll squirt in your eyeball. So careful.
See,
There's that. Okay, but Nick, do you put it in the fridge or do you put it in the cabinet once you're done?
I'm not a heathen. It goes in the cabinet.
What? No, it goes in the fridge.
Hot
It's not-
sauces don't go in the fridge.
No,
Some do.
sriracha is a
Some do.
vinegar-based sauce. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I'll have to bring that up another time. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.